All right, Chelsea fans, welcome back to another episode. That's right, of the London is Blue podcast. Hopefully, your favorite Chelsea podcast out there, and a part of the Men in Blazers Media Network. Dan and Nick here after Chelsea got it done against Wolves, 17th place Wolverhampton Wanderers, to get back into the top four. A couple points ahead of Manchester City, just a few points behind Nottingham Forest and Arsenal, to be fair, because they're equal on points right now. Little bit of a morale boosting Monday, Nick, in terms of what Chelsea needed to get done, got done. Goals coming from unlikely goal scorers, which is actually kind of what we've been asking for.
That's exactly what we've been asking for. I mean, we went through the list on the very last podcast that we did together of all of the goal scorers and how low the averages and totals were for basically anyone not named Cole Palmer or Nico Jackson. And lo and behold, we get a couple more contributions today from a couple defenders and one winger, and that's exactly what we needed. I mean, this was I know we say there's must-win games a lot in seasons, but this really did feel like a must-win game today. Combine our terrible run of form with the other teams who are kind of in and around us now. They're good runs of form. We needed to have this one, and I'm glad that the team, despite not being like a phenomenal overall performance, was clinical enough just to get this one done and be able to move through.
To me, it felt like a little bit of a rope-a-dope performance for times, because we were really good for that first 30, 35 minutes. And then right before halftime, we said, you know what? We're going to collapse a little bit here. We really want to allow Wolves an opportunity. We're going to don our Charity FC type of situation here. And we're going to give them the belief that there's something for them in this game. We're also going to let them have the first 10 to 15 minutes after the restart. But then we're going to come back 60th minute forward and assert ourselves and not let them back into this game. So very much to me, a situation once again where our lack of fitness is showing up. The churn of games is coming full and fast, and we are finding ourselves in a predicament where not every player is 100%, which we'll get into. But it's a win, and I think that was the most crucial thing from Maresca and the players to get done, to get across the line today, and puts us in a situation where we now, again, back and forth, controls of our own destiny at this point, because you just have to win the games in front of you through the end of the season, and you could be a top 4 team and secure Champions League football without a problem.
100%. I mean, it's 3 points were definitely required after the run that we had been on, which is, I think, was 3-15. So, it's a good start. I mean, the team has a lot of work to do, between now and the end of the season. And we kind of talked about the points that are required to get to that threshold that is typically 4th, 5th area. And Chelsea really do have to start looking at that 67 to 70 points as the target aim at minimum to get across the line. So anytime you can tack 3 points on, today gets us to 40. We're only 27 points off, 27 to 30 points off, I should say. It becomes, 3 points makes a big jump in these sorts of calculations, the more that you get them. So, yeah, may it continue.
Yeah, we want to talk about a couple things this episode. We're going to talk about Chalobah comes back with a man of the match performance vindicate himself and absolutely embarrass a couple of individuals in key roles at Chelsea Football Club. Also talk about some of the makeshift lineups and maybe who we liked and disliked in terms of total performances on the day. Maybe also getting the fact that there our time of recording, 11 days left in the transfer window, and it feels like we are coming up to a whimper type of end to it, though we do have a Matt Law episode that will be dropping later this week that we'll get into more specifics about the incomings and outgoings. Before we do that, as always, a couple three-word match reviews that we want to throw at you to give you a little bit of the tone, a little bit of the expectation. And just off the top here, we have Kate with the Cuckoo Crates chances. That's good. You like a little alliteration there, Nick? You got one there. Yeah, Marco 21 with the Noni Poaches one. I'm going to get to that one later. Yes, but no. Yes, but no. You had Agaba with the Chalobah stabilizes ship. You had Jason with the Roberts mistake mast. That's actually a double one because you can go with Ben Roberts and Robert Sanchez if you really wanted to go in for a doubly there. You had the Marcus Alonso regen from Millhouse for a little bit of Tosin love. So I mean, I think there were some good ones there in terms of people getting some good vibes. And then Grizz ended with only 2 words are needed: Trevoh Chalobah.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's, for me, a long-standing Trevoh Chalobah stan.
True.
This is Trevoh Chalobah vindication. I mean, I have said for months and years, I remember all the way back to when we were in the parking lot at FedEx Field when Disasi was signed. We don't need that player. We got a really good one in Trevoh Chalobah, and he's back.
I'm gonna say, so that was a hot take at the moment. I remember the comments on that video, and we come back to it now. Those might be some freezing cold takes.
Dan, I think the receipts on that one are gonna be interesting. I got widely panned by a lot of people for suggesting, how dare I, that Trevoh Chalobah was better than a lot of center backs on the market. Is he better than every center back in the world? No, but is he damn good at what he does? Was he playing out of position today? Yes, he is great, and it's vindication for your boy here, who's going to be insufferable on this for some time. I have terrible news for the haters.
Wow, the haters are always there for you. Look, it's 22 degrees Fahrenheit outside right now, -5 Celsius, 5.5.
-5 Fahrenheit over here, Dan. It's fucking awful outside.
So definitely some freezing cold takes available. Look, I'm going to go with a similar one, but it's Defenders FC return. Because look, if Cole Palmer FC isn't getting it done for you, what better than having 1, 2, or 3 defenders scoring goals on the day? I'm going to say that I'm going to give Chalobah the nod on the Madueke one, because that was the biggest assist you've ever seen. If you want to look at something very interesting, look at the fact that Nana Madueke goal had an XG of 0.99.
Come on, dog.
The most unrealistic XG you've ever seen for an individual chance. Probably should have been over it, to be fair. It should be over 100% probability that you score from that position.
Yeah, I mean, it's the highest XG that you can get, I think. And Madueke even came out after and was like, I told Trev I had to score. That's what they pay me to do. And I was like, fair enough. I think as a forward player, that's the instinct that you have. But that goal would have certainly been unbelievable for Trev if it goes in the net. I mean, good Lord.
Well, it's just a situation where, we'll get to the admin in a second, but, there have been so many times this season where a sure goal for Chelsea doesn't actually go in that my heart could not take, for whatever reason, the universe deciding that Trevoh Chalobah couldn't have that goal. And the blade of grass was just too sturdy and it bounces in the wrong direction. I would rather we secure as many goals as possible. And as much as people are I can't believe that he would steal Trev's goal. You know what? I get your point. I get your sentiment. It looked like it was going in, but stranger things have happened to Chelsea Football Club this season. I'm taking the surefire thing every time. I'm taking us pumping the goal difference where we can. We're now up to +17, which we had watched our goal difference basically disappear against Man City over the last game. So take it when you can and take every opportunity in the moment there. But look, some admin pieces as always. Thank you for supporting the podcast. We love our 5-star reviews on Apple's podcast and Spotify. I always appreciate it. Subscribe on YouTube if you haven't. Hit the like button. Comment also on the videos too. Let us know if you like Nick's return take on Axel Disasi with the Trevoh Chalobah Man of the Match appearance. And then you can also subscribe to our free weekly newsletter with London's Blue Dispatch, written by Sam. And you can get involved in our Discord community of free or paid capacity. But also, there's the trip to London coming up end of March, beginning of April. And after a win like this, you might be a little more enthused, a little more excited to join us and over 25 people at this point who are coming along with us for the ride. And you could be one of them. We would recommend, though, locking in that trip as soon as possible. We never say no to a late sub. Our friends at XL Tours do a great job of getting people signed up, even at the very, very end of it all. It just means it makes it a little bit more difficult for them to make sure everybody gets a seat next to one another, gets to enjoy all the things, gets you extra communication in advance. So, Nick, anything else you want to call out to people about the trip as we wind down on that like initial end date or like light end date that we want to put out there?
Yeah, so we're looking at like January 31st ish. So, it's not saying that if you sign up after, you're not going to be able to go, but by and large, if you're signed up by January 31st, we're going to kind of consider that to be the main group that is going. Like Dan said, it's 25 people already, which is a phenomenal response. And we're really excited about that. I think shenanigans shall be afoot. If you shenan once, you will definitely shenan again, and that's going to be us. So let me know if you have any questions. Contact at londonisbluepodcast.com. And then we will put out a schedule inclusive of where our live pod is and any sort of like meetups or whatever. We've had a bunch of people message us saying, hey, I live in London. I obviously have tickets and I don't need a hotel, but I'd love to meet up with you guys. And if that's the case, or if you're just going to be over for those matches anyway, the more the merrier. Let's have some fun together. We'll publish a schedule of events once we get it all sorted.
Look, we're going to be about a 3-minute walk away from the Atlas, which is wonderful.
You'll find me there. That's where I will be.
I don't imagine we'll be there more than one evening. That's for sure. Would be very odd if we were to do that, but you might find us there quite frequently over the multiple days that we're there. But look, let's get into the match review. It was Chelsea versus Wolves this past Monday, January 20th, 2025. Chelsea win 3-1. Goal starting with Tosin in the 24th minute. That's right. We found our Marcus Alonso, and his name is Tosin. Yet we couldn't finish the first half without giving up a charity goal. Darty with the 45th minute +5 as 6 minutes of stoppage time gets it done after Robert Sanchez realized he cannot hold on to the balls. And it was in the 60th minute on the opposite side of the halves where Cucurella comes up with his second Premier League goal of the season for Chelsea. Just absolutely wonderful awareness in the box to make that turn and convert there. And then Madueke in the 65th minute with the incredible header assist from Trevoh Chalobah, which was quite wonderful. Now, I think also we need to call out Dewsbury Hall gets an assist in this game. Much maligned Dewsbury Hall. Not maybe the best performance ever, but you know what? You get an assist. Yeah, you come out of the cold. Just got to give you a little bit of a nod and say thank you for your work today.
Yeah, he was fine. Dewsbury Hall was fine. I mean, I think that was an eyebrow raiser when you looked at the lineups. Obviously, 5 subs in this one, right? Reece James coming back in, Tosin and Trev as your center back pairings. Center back pairing with Trev playing left center back, which is not something that he really does. He's more of a right center back. Dewsbury Hall coming in, and then Neto on the left, Madueke on the right. And as I was just kind of thinking about this match. Dewsbury Hall is clearly like last pecking order midfielder that is available. Cassidy is almost certainly going to move to Italy at this point. It wasn't bad. I mean, it puts a ton of pressure on Caicedo to basically be the lone 6 in the setup because Dewsbury Hall was moved in on the right-hand side. Looks like Palmer is kind of operating in a free role. So it was different sort of lineup, but when you have as much possession as Chelsea had in this game, I think you can kind of get away with it. And the added athleticism of Trev and Reece James in there, I think helps solidify that back line.
Yeah, if you play that way against Manchester City this weekend, you can expect some serious problems. But in this one, Chelsea did have 63% of the possession of the ball to the 37% for Wolves. We had 3.15 XG. It's actually a little bit of an underperform in this game. Not very often we've done that this season. To the 0.86 expected for Wolves, 4 big chances for us to their 19 total shots to their 9. We had 3 goalkeeper saves apiece. I did appreciate our good friend Nazar Cancela. I think at like the 70th minute mark, tweeted that Wolves had not had a single shot in the second half. And then it was like a minute and a half later, their first shot on target happens, or their first shot. So really, really nice there. And then a couple other ones. We had 8 fouls to their 14. We had 3 corner kicks to their 6. We had 4 yellow cards there too. And just in case you caught the misinformation tweet on social media, Moises Caicedo will not be suspended for the game against Manchester City for picking up a 5th yellow card. At this point in the season, you now have up to the 32nd game of the season to accumulate 10 cards. So if you are at 4 at the point of the 18th match, it rolls over.
Yep.
Gives you up to 10. So you had 6. So he's now at 5. So he just can't accumulate another 5 between now and the 33rd game. Otherwise, he would serve that suspension. So just something to keep in mind there. Not really an issue at this moment. I want to get into a bunch of other stuff about the match, Nick, but do you have a shithouse moment in the match? I think you found one. It was a photo potentially that someone shared from the game.
Someone tweeted an excellent photo at me, which was Sanchez after giving away the goal and Trevoh Chalobah doing the disappointed guy with the hands on his hips with the look back. That was a pretty great one. But, it was a good game. There wasn't anything like too crazy in it. Some hard fouls for sure, but nah, it's fine.
Well, that is the good thing to consider. We want to get into all the talking points, particularly with the return of Trevoh Chalobah, his great performance, and maybe just how that looks. Some people look really, really good, and some people look not so good. We'll do that after our first break, so stay tuned. We'll be right back. Okay, Nick, so it's a little bit of a I told you so moment. And again, I think there are people who are still going to say, it's 17th place Wolves, not the best team in the Premier League. No. Anybody can do it at home against a team like that. I don't give a damn. I don't give a damn at all. Trevoh Chalobah had a phenomenal performance on the night. It was, without a doubt, the man of the match performance. He came back. He had a phenomenal assist that could potentially have been a goal by itself. He was actually...
It was a goal. It was a goal.
He was the SofaScore highest rated player at 8.4 on the day. 7 clearances, 1 block shot. I would argue that his control, his ability to body Larson, which I think is something that we've missed in our center back pairings, not to besmirch Levi Colwell too much, but like we have allowed bigger attackers to feel very comfortable pushing and shoving us around, and Trevoh Chalobah was having none of it on the day. Was available in attack, was available in defense, was pushing forward appropriately. It's particularly the way that Cucurella was cutting into the box in central. The value of Trev being comfortable pushing up, shortening the field, creating very quick passing movements, very, very missed in terms of particularly when we lost not only West, but losing Levi. For him to step up, this type of performance, really, really great night, particularly also on a night where Moises Caicedo was having to do so much. Trev giving him that comfort, giving them that safety blanket has to feel so much better. I know, though, that you, as much as I'm a big Trev fan, you're the biggest Trev fan that I know. So we'll cede the floor to you, the gentle person of Kansas City, to espouse your favorite words about Trevoh Chalobah's performance on the night.
Look, I mean, you take this back to a couple weeks ago when I talked to Matt Law, and we're going to have another Matt Law special coming out on Wednesday. And, us thinking that, the Trev storyline at Chelsea was over and that, Palace were going to snap him up for 20 million pounds or whatever. And, all that stuff. You think about the way he was treated this summer, which was a disgrace. You think about all of the times basically from the 2021-2 season that he's been in and out of the side, whether it was Tuchel and that system, or it was Potter, or it was Pochettino, or whatever. You think about all the stuff that he's had to overcome. And yes, he's been, he's had some injuries that have kind of delayed some comebacks or whatever. And there have certainly been some poor performances in there, but I really, really value this player. I think that he's really good. I think that his size profile is good. I think that his aerial ability, winning that header for the assist, in quotes, is amazing. His physicality on the ball, his passing off the ball, his ability to slot into midfield. You saw him run into midfield a bunch tonight because that is a thing that is very comfortable for him to do. It's not as comfortable for a lot of other defenders to do. He is very comfortable there because he's actually played CDM. And in a team that doesn't have many midfielders, this could be a very valuable asset. We saw Cucurella slot into midfield at the end of the game, but assuming that you start to get some of these center backs healthy, that could be an option for Maresca because he has the passing range. He's a wonderful player. And more than anything, he's been loyal to the club even when shit was bad. Like, you didn't hear him badmouth the club or badmouth when Stanley and Stewart for the way that he was being dealt with. They viewed him as pure profit, and anything other than that is a lie. So we're now at a point where he is now, for this 5th time in his Chelsea career, made a comeback, played right after getting recalled. Wasn't even a thought in anyone's head he was going to play. Played on the other side, played on the left, where Levi usually plays, and was fucking incredible. He was absolutely incredible today. And I could think of a hell of a lot of worse options than to have a guy who loves the club, who came through the academy, who has scored goals for Chelsea, important goals, who can defend incredibly well, who can pass really well, who is dominant in the air. I could think of a hell of a lot worse of a profile to have at Chelsea Football Club, especially in our time of greatest need from an injury standpoint. And the sporting directors look bad, Dan. They just look bad, flat out. And I don't love criticizing them. I'm not like a big super hater or whatever, but this in particular irks me.
Yeah, I don't think we like to assign blame without merit. I think this is now though a case where you look at the fact that Levi Colwell was out for this game. You look at the fact that Wes Fofana is a injury prone player and cannot be trusted to stay healthy, and it is going to be looked back at a very bad purchase for Chelsea Football Club. On the day, can be a phenomenal defender for us, but has not been able to showcase that ability at all. Tosin's come in and I think come to life over the last couple of games, so I think we still need to see a little bit more from him, but I'm feeling better about that, and particularly as a free transfer, that you get maybe a little bit more latitude. We've seen, Josh come in and have a good, really, really strong performance, have a then not so great performance. And so but he's also a youngster and he doesn't cost you anything. So I think there's a lot of latitude that you give him as well. Axel Disasi does not look to be good enough to be a starting center back for this football club or starting right back for this football club. And now you've had to go
Shield, we're kind of up and down on, just depends on the day. Weird purchase too.
And so Trevoh Chalobah comes back and he's actually now either your second or third best center back, depending upon what metric you're looking at here. I mean, that is just a matter of fact at this point.
When he left this summer too. So you've just wasted everyone's time for 6 months.
And would you rather had Enzo Maresca giving him the option to start him versus starting Badiashile, starting Disasi, because he also can play right back. We've seen some really strong performances from right back Trevoh Chalobah before. Maybe not the way that Maresca would like him to play from an inverted position, but could have then put somebody on the left-hand side like Cucurella, let him do the full Cucurella experience, and then just ask him to play a little bit more conservatively on the right-hand side. We got a full Cucurella experience today outside of a really fun challenge, but this one was good. I just think if you are now the ownership group and you're evaluating the success of this team, everybody's performance at the end of the season, if you have to look back on the fact and say, well, wait a minute, you said this guy was surplus to requirements. You said this guy was just, a profit play for us, but he's come back. And if he has between now and the end of the season, another 10 plus, 11 plus performances where he is making critical blocks, where he's involved in the attack, where he is absolutely setting the standard and being a leader on the pitch, I think it is going to be very hard to defend that decision to send him away, the decision to try to move on from him, and the decision to continue to try to bring in a younger player than him to grow them into being a Premier League center back. And the only thing that you could accept at this point is is there a world-class center back that you are bringing in who is light years ahead of where Trevoh Chalobah is today as a player or as a performer, or where Levi is, and they become your de facto number one? That to me is what I would want from a player recruitment perspective, is saying, hey, we identified we do have a center back problem. we have a core of 3 or 4 we'd like to have, and maybe that 3 or 4 involves Levi Colwill, Trevoh Chalobah, and Tosin. And then you bring in number 4, who's not from the academy, who's not from, a bottom tier Premier League team, but is actually like a legitimate starter in most teams in the world and elevates the total level of the squad versus what we've kind of continued to do, which is hope that one of our 4 or 5 hits in the position actually makes it good. And, I think that is going to be where my criticism is leaning, is that you were saved by the player that you cast away. The castaway has returned and has really saved you from looking pretty poor in terms of your squad building and setting up your manager to be successful on a season that is, I think, effectively critical to prove that your formula is working.
Totally. And I mean, look, here are the things that the sporting directors can't control. They can't control the injuries at all. I mean, the injuries are what they are.
Nope. Very fair.
You can't control if you buy injury-prone players. That's a thing, but, that's a risk that they've taken on multiple occasions. You can't control where those injuries happen and at what times, right? Obviously, there's a bit of a crunch at center back right now, but you can squad plan effectively to ensure that you have the right depth when those things happen. And, I think you can control how you treat players. And I do not believe that Trevoh Chalobah was treated right. I don't believe that Ben Chilwell has been treated right. I don't believe that there are a bunch of players who I don't think have been treated very well. And I think what's scary about that, is, and again, this isn't me just like taking the piss out of these guys and like kicking them while they're down. But if you don't think that impacts recruitment coming the other way, you're out of your mind. I mean, these players talk to each other. Like, if someone were to ask Trevoh Chalobah how his last 12 months at Chelsea have been, let's see. I went from being a starter in a really important part of a team that was challenging for, top 6 and was very unlucky to not be in the Europa League this year, to being a complete cast out, to being rumored to be sold but no one buying me, to being loaned to Crystal Palace, and then being pulled back by my parent club in an hour of need. And all the while, I just stayed quiet and went about my business. If you were another player who was looking to come to Chelsea, who was unsure, maybe you have multiple offers from big clubs, which, is hopefully the profile of player that we are looking at would have multiple big profile offers from big profile clubs. I think that makes a difference on its face. And it's not to say that they've screwed up all these things. I'm not saying that they're, the end all be all to all this stuff. But I do think that this one in particular, they screwed up very, very badly. And I know that there have already been think pieces published and quotes from inside that says, while the majority of the football universe thinks that this was a huge failure on their behalf, they don't see it that way. Fellas, it is. Like, and the sooner you just own up to it, the better. I get we are in a society where you never want to admit you're wrong and that you just want to look tough all the time. You can power through any bad news cycle. I don't know. It frustrates me to no end because Trev is not the guy to ever say this shit himself. I feel like a lot of people are saying it on his behalf, rightly or wrongly, because they feel like he was mistreated. And, I think for those of us who have been Trevoh fans for a very long time, it's been very hard to see this cycle. Like, even him coming back, I was apprehensive because, like, what if they treat him like shit again, or don't play him, or he's 5th choice or whatever, and he could have been playing football for Palace and trying to get his value up for the offseason. Like, I hope he comes back and plays and stays. That's the ultimate scenario. Club are already briefing that they're going to try and sell him again in the summer. It's just nonsense.
Well, look, we want to get into just maybe some of the tactical decisions, changes that Enzo Maresca made to get this one across the line, to unleash some players, but also maybe frustrated a couple of others just in how they maybe were not able to showcase the maximum of their talents or were a little frustrated with their play on the day. We're going to take our last break and we get that out of the way. When we come back, get into all of that conversation. So stay tuned. We'll be right back. All right. So after the break here, Nick, want to talk a little bit about just maybe some of
more
the
Trevoh Chalobah.
Look, if we do that, I think people are unfortunately going to tune out. So
all right,
we're just going to watch the metrics decrease and nosedive after the second ad break. On this one, though, I mean, there were other performances, though, that I think were really worth recognizing on the day, talking about players who've come back. I mean, I think this was a really strong return from Reece James. When we were talking with Yan, yourself, and I, when we were having the conversation around what do we need to see from Reece James between now and the end of the season, like this was another strong deployment from him. It was good to see him get back to fitness, very comfortable involvement from him in this game. That was great to see. Mark Cucurella, the full Cucurella experience today was another
full Cook. Let's go.
Strong performance. I did write in my notes. So I usually just keep a list of questions that I try to answer throughout the game. The second half is like, what will Mark Cucurella end up doing in the box today? And then like 3 minutes later, he gets the goal, which was fantastic. He also played as the midfielder when Gusto came in. Like that was interesting. Then there were other performances, though, where if Madueke doesn't get the goal, maybe we've got a bit of a bigger question mark for his involvement in the game. Pedro Neto's performance, not necessarily what you need. I think the wingers are still a bit of a question mark. Yeah, Nico Jackson with an ability to score a really strong finish on an offside position that he started from, but doesn't necessarily find a way to convert to another chance in this game. Moises Caicedo, I think, showing maybe a little fatigue, but also being asked to run around the entire damn pitch might be a bit of a challenge there. Dewsbury Hall, again, we mentioned too. Yeah, there's a lot of players that I think you can go through here. I mean, I think I would talk about Reece. I would talk about Cucurella, really strong performances from our fullbacks. One of the first games we've seen in recent memory where our fullbacks have maybe operated at such a high level, partially due to the opposition just wanting us to have the ball and trying to play on the counter. But I felt very comfortable with the way that both Reece and Cucurella got on today.
Yeah, it was definitely a really strong performance from Reece. And I loved when because they're still managing his minutes, which is the exact right thing to do. Like he came out in the 77th minute. He goes over to Moises Caicedo, gives him the armband, says, "Win this fucking game. Like go win this game." And I thought that was a good moment from him. I'd still like to see more of that fire out loud on the pitch, especially in moments where we're getting, a little bit more under the cosh, I should say. But I thought it was a super strong performance from him. It was, it's just a joy to see him in and around the box and for the crowd to just go shoot and for him to let one rip. And, hopefully we get a few more goal contributions from him this year. That'd be great. Cucurella, again, it was very clear that part of the game plan was that he was going to be advanced and that he was going to be kind of the extra man in the box. All those early crosses he was flying toward, the overlaps with Neto, they really struggled for the first half to get on the same page, and I think kind of figured out something in the second half. He gets a phenomenal goal. I mean, it's a great finish. He kind of scuffs it, but at the end of the day, it's a great bit of body control to get the goal. And, he's had a couple of bad performances in a row. I know that I've been very pro Cucurella this year, but he's been, 5-9 the last couple of weeks on SofaScore. This was much more like it from him. And the interesting wrinkle about him playing midfield is definitely one to watch, because we'll talk about injuries and the impacts of all that coming up. But, it's an interesting option, especially if you have multiple center backs or Malo Gusto who can, potentially slot in at left back to facilitate that move. So, I think it was a pretty solid performance from him. I think Tosin, again, gets a good goal. It's a great finish.
Yeah.
Backup striker, question mark? I don't know. That's 3 and 3 for him. We're asking for contributions from other players, Dan. That's a big one. And I was pretty happy overall with the way the back line played. I think your point about Caicedo and the stretch for him, when he goes down and he's grabbing his knee in the first half,
Nightmare fuel.
The fucking air went out of the building. I could sense it on TV. Like I was like, it was dead quiet. And I think that is the acknowledgement that everyone knows that if that one guy leaves this team, through injury or suspension, we are just not going to look the same. And, you know, you want to talk about most valuable in the team, it's either him or Cole. And, you know, maybe that gap is smaller than I thought, because the gasp that I did was palpable. And, you know, it really does.
Gasp.
Yeah, I was like, no, please don't be him. Anyone but him, you know, because he just makes everything run. He was playing by himself in midfield because we wanted to play with 5 attackers. So he had a hell of a job to do.
Yeah, I really liked. So I could see a world where this is the same back line that plays against Man City this weekend. Very, very likely. Barring any return from injury for Levi Colwill, that maybe puts Trevoh Chalobah into right situation, Levi Colwill into left situation from a center back perspective. But, you know, getting Reece and keeping Reece healthy to start in that game. Mark Cucurella has liked playing Man City the past couple of times, so I think he'll enjoy a little bit of an opportunity to unleash some of that fire and verve he has against the citizens. And, you know, maybe I think the wingers are still a big question mark. Our strikers are a big question mark, particularly when we're trying to whiz the ball across the box and we don't have either the wingers or the striker who has just the MO to take a ball down or to knock it into the back from an aerial position. Like we had so many attempts at whizzing it over. And if you had one more attacker in there who's 6'2", 6'3", or maybe even a little smaller, but has some big ups, could have at least contested for it. And that is not how this team has been built. So I don't know if that's a Maresca indicating to the sporting directors that he would really love a striker of that profile between now and the end of the window, or if he would like that person to absolutely 100% be here in the summer transfer window. But from a structural standpoint, it feels a little odd if we're going to use that as our way to move the ball around, if we don't have the profile of player in there to actually do anything with it other than shift it from side to side or potentially put us in a situation where it just nets out as a turnover. So those are questions I have about just, the deployment, the structure, how we're using it. Any other just player observations or notes from the games before we talk about the fact that we do some wrestling comments coming out afterwards that are not going to put supporters in the best mental mindset when it comes to player availability and injuries?
Cole Palmer's not healthy. I think that's pretty obvious.
Also confirmed by the manager, too, after the game that he was playing with a injured ankle.
Yep. So, he looked a little bit off today. I think that's notable. He obviously has not had an injury record at Chelsea. So hopefully they are able to just manage the pain and get him through this little bit without it being too much. But, he got kicked a few times today, too. There were probably some sore ones left in. I do think Madueke and Neto, we're at a point that early in the season I was like, man, we have too many winger options, and now I'm just not sure. I didn't get enough from Madueke or Neto today to really solidify their place for City. I don't think. Wouldn't shock me if Jadon Sancho started. Depends on what game that Enzo Maresca wants to play against City. But you're probably looking at someone like Jadon Sancho coming in. I am really, really interested to see if there is a factor to potentially get Nkunku into that lineup, depending on what we want to do. I know he's been rumored to leave and all that sort of stuff. Surprised we didn't see him today, honestly, because I thought the game was kind of begging for him to be in there. But, whether that's as a striker, give Nico a little bit of a break, or if that's, as a 10 and maybe give Cole a little bit of a reprieve, not saying from the start, but just seeing in the game, like that's something for sure. And I think this squad is just kind of at a weird spot, Dan. Like we're looking at not many options to come in and do a real critical role, and with players who are overperforming their normal level.
Yeah, so a stat from BBC Sport came out that Chelsea made 59 changes to the starting 11 in the Premier League this season. Only Ipswich Town was 61 to have made more in this campaign, which is not super ideal for consistency, particularly as you're hoping to build a team that is comfortable with one another, that can go and challenge appropriately. You can already make changes over the season. Like that is just, it's unrealistic to say you've only had 5 or 6 starting lineups, right? Like you need to rotate players, you need to rest them appropriately. You're going to have injuries, but to have 59 changes feels a little high considering that we have 22 matches played. I think the one other thing, last call before we talk about just Maresca's comment with the squad. I mean, very clear, we do not have a true starting Premier League goalkeeper who can help us really challenge for top 4 and top honors in this side. Like that is this. And Maresca's comment afterwards, he did get asked about Sanchez in particular, and just like, and he's like, yeah, well, he's made 4 errors leading to goals, but how many times has he saved us? Which I think is a fair thing if your guy is being attacked to come back with. It is just not the caliber of player and the confidence building individual that I would hope that we want in the future. And so my mind kind of leans towards summer and thinking, look, we've seen a little bit of Jorgensen. I don't think he's ready to be a Premier League starter for this club. Clearly, Robert Sanchez is fine for a lot of teams in the Premier League, but not if we are aspirationally wanting to go in and have a deep run in the Champions League next season if we qualify. That's not the guy I wanted to entrust this to.
No.
So
that one today was tough. I mean, he looked surprised that the ball was coming in towards the crowded area that was designed to make it tough for him. And he still had the athleticism to get up and get to the ball, and then just looked like Mark Andrews for the Ravens yesterday.
Ooh, great reference.
Dropped it for no reason and cost the team. And I just, that and the per match dose of fear that I get whenever he's kicking the ball out of the back. I don't think he's the final iteration of goalkeeper that we're going to need to reach the heights that we want to reach. I hope he overperforms to the end of the year to help us get there and be an important part of that journey. But yeah, I mean, I just can't see a world where he's the guy that takes us to another Champions League,
Yeah, I mean, he's played more minutes than he had the entirety of last season. So he's at 1,700 minutes for this Premier League campaign. He was at 1,400 minutes last season. He's 2 away from matching the goals he conceded across those 16 games. So he's at least a little bit better from that on a stats point. He saved 87% of the shots on target, or the shots on target against 87. He has saved 63. So his save percentage has gone up. It just happens that some of the giveaways have been very unkind. And maybe a little bit more of a, just not being kind of plugged in all the time. But look, there are other concerns. There's 11 days left in the transfer window. There's now the comments that in the next 24 to 48 hours from Enzo Maresca's mouth and to this podcast that intermediated by a bunch of reporters on the ground, that they're going to find out what his fitness situation is. If there's a conversation about 24 to 48 hours to find out about a fitness situation, which probably means that we're waiting for swelling to reduce to get a clearer shot or an understanding, that does not fill me with a ton of confidence that we're going to see a lot of Enzo Fernandez over now and the end of the season. We also have the comment from him that there is worse than feared with Romeo Lavia for his availability. So now we went from having a midfield combination of 3, where we felt pretty strong about that heading into the season, to having one really wonderful senior midfielder in Moises Caicedo and a ragtag bunch of replacement options. We talked about the fact that Dewsbury Hall comes in from the cold. He looks in line to start more minutes and get more opportunities here between now and the end of the season, with this being the rate of it. We know that Renato Vega was left out for a technical decision, not due to maybe transfer rumors. I don't know how much of that I believe. But when you're angling for a move outside of the club or hoping for it, it's very unlikely that maybe you're going to get an opportunity to start our feature. it just feels as if there actually now is some critical work that needs to be done in the next 11 days to bring in 1 to 2 players to really turbocharge this squad from Maresca to get it across the line. That it is in a very perilous position. Yes, we're in 4th. Yes, we control our own destiny. Yes, we are the odds-on favorite and have the caliber of players who should go on and win the UECL. But we are also a team that has shown that we can underperform and play down to the level of our opposition with the best of them. And we are a Cole Palmer injury, a Moises Caicedo injury, a Reece James re-injury, away from being a very, very average to below average Premier League side.
Yeah, I mean, correct. I mean, it's. I think you're at the stage, depending on. Actually, no, not depending on anything. I think you have seen enough that you are absolutely within your rights and honestly within your responsibilities as sporting directors to recall Andre Santos from Strasbourg. You're well within your rights to recall Leslie from Southampton and get yourself a couple of good quality young midfielders back into the squad who can spell Moises Caicedo over the next couple of months. I mean, it's ridiculous now. Like I put out the tweet earlier this morning that Caicedo and Enzo, let's just sideline Enzo's injury here for a second, which is already concerning. Caicedo and Enzo have already played 14 more full 90s than Lavia this season. Already. And obviously that went up today to 15 for Moises Caicedo. If Enzo's out, I mean, are we just not going to play with the midfield? Even if you get Trev to go deputize as a CDM, and maybe that's a part of the solution, you're still short. You're still dramatically short because Kieran Dewsbury Hall cannot play in central midfield. He's an advanced midfielder. And I don't even know how valuable of that he is when you have other options like Nkunku
and to be fair, like he did that under Maresca in the prior season for Leicester. That's very much being an attacking player.
Yes.
Has that profile. Though the question is that who you want to rely upon? Just like if Nico Jackson gets injury, do you want to rely upon Mark Guiu or Joao Felix as a false 9, Pedro Neto as a false 9 between now and the end of the season to secure top 4? Potentially top 5 is enough to get you Champions League. Like you were just gambling very heavily with the squad that you have. And I think that is the headline argument I would make in the case for, to your point, bringing back Andre Santos, signing either a short-term striking option or potentially going big and getting whomever you want, is that you are taking a major risk. You're taking I would say an uncalculated risk because it's like there is a lot of unknowns when it comes to human capital and in players and personnel on will they be able to make it? Will they be able to stay fit? Will some freak muscle injury happen off pitch, not in a game that takes someone out for another couple weeks? Like very clearly, there is a need to do a little bit more to get this squad across the line.
It's borderline irresponsible to not bring them back. Like, I understand there are a bunch of Strasbourg supporters who want to see Andre Santos finish out the year. They are obviously not having the best season and are, all that sort of stuff. And I totally understand their point of view. However, we're talking about Chelsea Football Club's asset. And Andre Santos can do a lot of great stuff for Chelsea, even if he's not like a locked-in Premier League starter. I think he could play next to Caicedo, no problem, because he has that sort of profile. But he could certainly start these UECL games. He could certainly start some FA Cup games, give Caicedo some rest. Same with Leslie, some quality minutes back there. Like these are, Lavia to me is kind of a Fofana type, maybe a Reece James type, where like the injuries you just can't count on for a whole season or whatever. But if Enzo goes down, a player who has had the groin injury, right, the hernia, was playing himself back to fitness, was finally starting to look the part as an 8, you just become short, like totally short in these areas. Like it's ridiculous.
Well, and the case for someone like Andre Santos is not only is he a fit midfielder, he doesn't cost you anything. There's no, the only thing that you might say is like from a Blue Co perspective, like I'm not advocating for this, just making the case that like
Totally.
Strasbourg have been close enough to be in the conversation for tipping back down towards relegation in points of the season. They are currently 10th in Ligue 1 right now. So like they're a little bit distanced from that in the moment. He has been one of, if not their best player, he's been one of Ligue 1's best players this season across multiple months, or at least in the conversation. He's also, though, scored 6 goals and 1 assist. He would come in tied league goals with Nani Madueke right now at 6. Like, better than what Enzo has done at 3, better than what Jadon Sancho has done with 2, better than what Nkunku has done with very limited minutes of 2. Caicedo has 1 goal with almost 2,000 minutes this season. Cucurella has 2 goals with 1,600 plus minutes this season. Like, you need people who can contribute. And if you're not getting it from your wingers, you're going to need someone. And so like, it's great that the defenders decide to stand up today. Bringing back Andre Santos is a really smart decision. I think we keep on hammering on it. Like for people who are like, I can't believe they're talking about Andre Santos again. Like, give it up, give it a break. I'm done hearing to this. I want to turn the podcast off. It's just about trying to figure out the most economical way and the quickest way to do something. And if you're already viewing him as an asset for the summer that you want to evaluate, that you want to bring into the squad, if Lavia is going to be injured, if Enzo Fernandez is going to be out for a significant period of time, like the concern would have been, we're not going to get enough minutes for him. And he would have then come back to play 200, 300, 400 minutes over the remainder of the season. That would have sucked. Like that would have been a very bad outcome. But if you're looking at now saying, hey, Lavia might miss until March, like you miss a whole month of football. That's, 3, 4, 5 matches.
For the 3rd time this season. I mean, like this is the point, right? Like you cannot count on him to start more than 4 games in a row without picking up some sort of injury. He was just coming back from an injury and got injured again. Like we hadn't seen him since Spurs for a month with very little clarification to the injury. So this, like, and it's not me saying that Romeo Lavia is never going to be fully healthy again. It doesn't seem like he's going to be fully healthy again this season. It feels like he keeps, like Reese did a few years ago, where he kept trying to go back on that hamstring and it kept blowing out. Like that's what it feels like to me. And again, not a doctor, not a medical professional, but I do observe our squad pretty regularly, as listeners of the podcast will know. And I care about our midfield. Midfield's my favorite position to watch. It's my favorite position in the world to view and to take in. And, you need guys in this role. It is the most demanding position on the field for me, especially because we don't have the overlapping fullbacks thing going on right now that Paz tried to do. This is the most demanding position, and you have guys who can help you. You'd be silly to not give them a chance to do it. And I don't know. That's it. That's all I got. I mean, I know that it would potentially hurt Strasbourg, and I don't want that, but I want Chelsea Football Club to do really well and to get top 4 and play Champions League next year.
And that's the big thing to keep in mind is the view on what now happens between now and the end of the season is super critical. I mean, again, obviously, one more match done, which is a great kind of place to be. One more match with a win, which is always a good place to be. I mean, in the season simulation for the Premier League that is currently up on Opta Analysts. So if you go to theanalyst.com, you can view it there. Chelsea currently with a 18.6% chance or probability of finishing 3rd, 21.7 of a 4th place finish, 20.1% with a 5th place finish, and then a 15.4% in a 6th place finish. So definitely after this one, puts us in the trend of being a much better position than where we were after the last match. Particularly, would have been, I think, probably a lot worse considering, or if we had lost this match, would have been in a much more worse situation if we had drawn this match. You would have given City an opportunity to bounce in a position and be much more comfortable about where they were. Very, very odd place to be at the moment. But again, Chelsea have found a way to get it done, to get the win, to put themselves back in fourth place, and to head into the weekend to play a City team that is going to have had to, play against PSG this week, and not the PSG of old, but it's an extra match. They'll definitely be playing some of their best players twice in a very short span of days and not getting a ton of rest. So you hope that maybe that puts you in a situation to be a little bit fresher, to be a little more comfortable. And, we generally, I think, feel more comfortable playing against sides who want to play an open game. And so maybe that helps us out a little bit.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, look, we got City on Saturday, right? And so we have a few days of rest here, Champions League, match day, 7 of 8 in their new league structure. It always kills me. I hate this new league structure so much. They have to do well there. Like, they actually have to go for
it's critical.
This is not
critical for them.
They are in 22nd place in the league table for the Champions League. They're 1 point off of not making it. PSG are not currently in the knockout phase table. They're 25th. Man City's 22nd. So this is like a huge deal for these clubs to try and make it to the next round. You have powerhouses like Feyenoord well ahead of City in the table. So I think this is just one of those things where Chelsea have this opportunity, rest up a little bit this week, get your bearings together. I'm not saying we're going to go there and stomp Man City or anything like that. Far from it. But I think based on the game that we played against them earlier this season, we have a style that can be compatible. If we finish our chances, we could easily draw or win that game. And then that is a huge result. So, looking on the positive side of this, if Chelsea are able to rest up a little bit, get healthy, and take this thing forward, that could be a massive, massive deal.
Well, and you get the long stretch on the back end as well, because you don't play West Ham until Monday the 3rd. It does put you in a situation where 5 days later you're playing Brighton in the FA Cup. So just, a short term there. But you are in a much better position than City, because their next 4 matches, PSG on the Wednesday, Chelsea on the Saturday, Wednesday again in the Champions League against Club Brugge, and then Arsenal on the Sunday away that weekend. They are in a tough stretch here, even after beating up on Ipswich 6-0, which makes our Ipswich loss feel that much more embarrassing.
Worse. Yeah.
But definitely would like to repay the favor for them getting a wonderful opportunity to hit us in the jaw at the start of the season, 2-0, before Chelsea got into fine form. Let's rebound, return, and get a win against the Citizens. That's what we like to do. But look, we've got tons more content coming out this week. We've got Matt Law coming back again.
We will be live after Man City on YouTube and X. So just join us. That'd be fun.
Rain or shine, win or draw. If it's a loss, who knows? Maybe we'll have to change it there. But that's going to do for this episode. So until next time, Chelsea fans, don't forget to get involved in our wonderful Discord. Sign up for that free weekly newsletter. Let us know if you'd like to come to London. We'd like to have you there with us. And until next time, keep the blue flag flying high.